Hey everyone, it's Alisha here at Cosmic Gateway. I have been having a very active, lots of insights and information and downloads and experiences happening over the last week since I did my last update. So I thought I would just jump on and share a little bit of what I've been witnessing and experiencing. Hoping that it might help put into context those that might be going through similar. And I'm going to jump around a little bit. I want to talk about the solar, the new frequency of the harmonic, how it is merging with the solar flares and the influxes that's attuning new levels of sensitivity. So I want to speak about that. I also want to talk about the unraveling the unraveling of what has been a highly distorted reality playing out over the last 5 years, and the high level of interference literally receding or recoiling and diminishing in real time, and how there is a reconciliation effect that's happening almost immediately. I also want to talk about the energetic overwhelm and what we can be going through, especially this time of year. I want to be able to talk about the deadline date that I spoke about at the end of November and what I've been witnessing playing out, or how it can show up in the reality in various different forms. And I think the final piece that I want to talk to is what I am noticing as the edging out of one space, 1 year, 9-year cycle, the energy of the snake, and what we're stepping into with the fire horse 2026. I can feel the energies already interweaving and landing to some degree. And we're just kind of doing this dance to make sure that we are fine-tuning and aligning ourselves in the best manner that we possibly can. So it all wraps up and ties in beautifully and nicely together. But I also want to talk about the level of, as we step up and step into our missions, a lot of people do experience, especially if you have a platform and you put your work out there publicly, we can often be in the direct line of a lot of energetic sort of reverberations, psychic attack, direct targeting through various means, through people, weaponry. And what has been really loud in my head over the last week, really going deep and processing how I do believe that we are moving eventually out of a time where that won't exist. And I believe that when we are strong as we possibly can be in our energetic system and framework, those types of influences don't penetrate as deeply or at all. And often what happens when there are these type of direct attacks that is trying to put us off our path or induce fear, stop us or prevent us, it's a threshold that is initiating us to move beyond and how we react or respond to it. And I think I may have mentioned this a little bit in my last update. And I'm navigating in my own life how I'm interplaying with these different energies. But what also, I've been reflecting on, and there'll be a story that I'll share with this, but I've been reflecting on over the last 5 years and the really dense and, for the most part, not the entire part, but for the most part, being in a much more distorted or synthetic overlay or corrupted timeline. Not for the entire time. We've had multiple attempts individually and collectively where we've probably come out of that reality and experienced the high octave or the new reality for a certain period of time. But the aim of the game, right, is to get as many people out of that old cycle and loop and frequency bandwidth of reality and stepping up into the new. And that was part of what the deadline at the end of November was talking about, was those that are prepared and ready to kind of proceed forward will kind of start to path the way into that new. And it does work on a numbers game, but it works on frequency holders and those that have the frequency to be able to hold and stabilize that. Because the more that we can have who've sort of mastered these previous cycles that we've been moving through over many years now, but especially in the last 5, to kind of anchor that in, the more we're going to hold more baseline of that organic reality, the new harmonic, and the more people can start to migrate across into that. And that's really the intense focus, I believe, at this point, as we make this transition out of this year, which was a big preparation year on many levels. The year of the snake, a lot of shedding happened. I don't think there was an individual on this planet that didn't go through enormous amounts of shedding and letting go and purification. And that's all purposeful, because we have to be clearer to receive or embody what's coming through. And never have those words reverberated in my mouth so strongly and so land so deeply of what we're working and maneuvering through in real time. And I know so many people have made those big shifts and leaps and steady sort of holding it, straddling it, trying to navigate it. And it is an ebb and flow. So I always say to people, if you feel like you've made that big frequency jump, you're in the new space, everything's flowing, everything's clear, everything's, aligned and heart-centered, then you have a couple of days of like, oh no, I'm back here. No, you're just ebbing and flowing and just be in the process, knowing that you are continually working into that stabilization. And we're doing that individually and collectively. So when we go through, or what we've come out of, is this very heightened, almost aggressive energy where there's been a lot of timeline war, a lot of temporal war, a lot of benevolent versus malevolent, the clashing of polarization frequencies. And, there are, let's face it, there are beings that, if we trip an alarm, we set off and we can be right in the, in the line of fire, so to speak. But when you are strong mentally, emotionally, and physically, these things can reverberate, almost like the Matrix. These bullets can ricochet off you. And so I feel like we're moving through a time now where it's so important to be in the healthiest version that we possibly can be, so that we're not falling prey to any of this that may, deviate us off our path, and we're just really focused on moving forward no matter what. Every time that I've had some profound, prolific psychic attack, and I've had a good handful of them in the last couple of years that have created an immense health crisis in my body. And I'll talk about one of them in a bit more detail. But essentially what it's done coming out the other side of it, yes, going through it is horrible when you feel victimized, when you feel threatened, when you feel under attack, when you feel targeted. The energies that come with that and the pure fear that ripples through you in that moment of like, where do I go? Who do I ask for help? Or it's in the middle of the night. It's always when you're at your lowest and most vulnerable point is when these things come in, and that's where our defenses are weak. Just like our immune system, right? Our defenses, our energy system's weak. It comes in, it rattles us, and it's like, who do I even speak to about these things that can help me? But what I can say is on the flip side of that, every one of those experiences has made me come back even harder and stronger. And it's completely made me go through profound metamorphosis, both spiritually and mentally, emotionally, and physically, to ways that I couldn't have perceived prior to that. So when we can work with what's in it for me, so to speak, how can I turn these lemons and make lemonade essentially from like a really shitty it's like it's like macro, anything that gets thrown into the political arena or the global stage that is let's say a counter move, so to speak. We're at the point of the game where it's like it's actually everything's going to be in the highest and best interest of all. It's going to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the phrase? It's going to backfire, essentially. And so I guess the highlighting key points are, this is a time that we need to take really good care of ourselves so that we're strong on all levels and be able to help and support each other so that we can move forward as a collective of those who are really focused on working in the new. So I want to share a story, really quite profound. About a week ago, I woke up with what I felt was like the new reality coming through in my dream space through the potency of the energy. And it's this powerful creative force of not only collaborative efforts, it's a frequency of creativity that I haven't yet fully been able to work with. It's come through in dream space, and I feel like it's been drip beating through. And that level of potency can create magic. And I'm excited for this to come through and to reach more people, because this is where the creative geniuses will be ultimately in their element. This frequency is the verge of new technology, new gadgets, new ways of doing things, new healing modalities, new ways of doing artistic expression, music, creations of all descriptions. And as I was infusing in that energy and allowing it to embody and how it relates to me in my personal journey, I literally saw the energy do this transmorphing, and it created a shape of a horse's face. And at the time, because I was just waking up, my brain wasn't working at that point. But as I got up, I realized, we're moving into the year of the horse. And I kind of laughed. I was like, that makes sense. The new energy coming through, the new harmonic, reality, the octave that's kind of waving through. And that's sort of how it looks and represents. And next year is the birthing of that, the starting point of that. And that will continue through for many years to come. And so it's those that are on the cutting edge of that, or the leading edge of that will access it and work with it and just create this space for more and more. And it really is a splitting of the tides that is occurring. And so there's a lot to be said about that. And I think this interlaces with the way that I see this explosion of new geometry coming in that creates the harmonic reality, that is creating these new sacred, the SSC, the sacred soul counterpart templates that's coming through. It's all part of the one creation that's creating this new harmonic reality, whether we call it New Earth or True Earth. This is not the full stabilized New Earth, I don't believe. This is the entry phase into it that we get to actually co-create in the new space and birth it through our love, our frequency, our dedication. And enjoy and reap the rewards of the hard work that is paying off or has paid off. But as we're moving through this, we have this powerful energy, and the way that I see it is coming through from outside of this reality. So if we think of this entire universe at the very beginning or end stage, there's new frequency light that's coming through that wouldn't be, it could be felt by us who hold that frequency within us because we're connected to it in a harmonic resonance. But I don't believe there's any technology that would measure that. So what I've been noticing incrementally over the past few weeks is there's enormous amounts of that type of energy coming in that lasts for about a day or two. And it really feels like you're living and operating in a new reality space. The ideas, the clarity, the flow, even the body feels free, pain-free. Everything's just in sync, and there's huge levels of vitality, productivity. And then what I'm noticing is like about 24 hours, almost exactly, there'll be a huge M-class or X-class solar flare. And I feel like it's starting to come down into physicality. So then it's coming into like our monitoring systems of how we measure solar activity, sun activity. So I wanted to put this out for you to be aware of your own process and how you're relating to the solar energy or the frequencies that you're feeling that may not be measurable. Because no matter what, I feel like we just jumped up a notch in that last shift, moving from November to December. And those that are in it are becoming increasingly more sensitive to the non-physical sun energy, and these other different energies, which when we start to become more attuned and sensitive, that can feel energetically overwhelming at times. And so you may need more time for just sitting on the ground, on the grass. Sitting, clearing your energy field. I will put up in the description box some resources that you can go to that I have available. Spending more downtime in your own processing, journaling, thoughts, doing vagus nerve resets, calming your nervous system, decompression from being around too many people, energies. And that can even happen in your own space. You don't even have to be in a crowd to experience that. If your antennas are tuned, it's about being able to have mastery over your energetic field. So as I'm saying this, all this that I'm sharing now is in elevation training, which up until Solstice there is a discount. So I'll put that in the description box. If you want to dive deep into accessing new tools, I highly recommend the elevation training series. one, two, or three, or all of them. That really helps to support a lot of the things that I discuss, not just on this video, but all my work that I do. But having said that, what I wanted to come into and really talk about, which just unfolded in the last 24 hours, I experienced one of these huge energy upticks that came through. And then for 24 hours, and then we've just had a relatively sizable X-class flare. I think we had an M, and then we had an X-class. And during this process, I've been working with my group in the Cosmic Rebirth container. After we'd finished our process and our call, I was lying in bed trying to go to sleep. Now, this had incrementally been happening over the weekend, so the 2 nights. I felt an air of really interesting, I guess you could call it snake energy in and around me. And I felt my heart, there was a lot of pressure in my heart that I had to really breathe out this really dense energy of torment or heartbreak, discomfort. I felt it physically and energetically, and when I tuned into it, it felt like a snake being. So the second night, I tuned into it even more, and I asked, where are you? Where is your origins, and where are you coming from? What is this? And immediately I was transported into like a reel or a movie, and I was taken back to 2019. And during 2019, I think it was around September and definitely October time, there was a real optimism and upswing in the spiritual community. A lot of people felt we were on the precipice of New Earth reality. And there was a lot of luminous light energy and activation that was happening. And I think that was one of the first times we really got to a pivotal point, individually and collectively, that we could have made a monumental shift. I think there have been other ones before that, but this one was most noticeable to the most amount of people from my perspective. And it was around that time where I started to notice this infiltration of snake astral beings, etheric beings, really nasty, vile snake beings. I had a dose of it every session I walked into. Some people had them as attachments, entity attachments. The energy that they came with was one that was very aggressive, very hostile, very victim mentality mindset, very blame game, very narcissistic, abusive, really exacerbating all those aspects and lower level emotions. And these astral snake beings, I've heard many people talk about them. This was the first time I came across them in mass, and I was cleaning them off people in droves. And it felt like the atmosphere was thick with them. It was like the more light we accessed, the more of these energies were kicking up and impacting people and making them act out of character. It was the one thing I noticed when I had my first round of it. I was like, I'm acting out of character. This is not me. So in December of 2019, I remember being on a phone call sitting outside one night, and all of a sudden I felt something bite me. Not physically, but energetically. It bit me in my lungs. I felt it. It felt like 2 fangs going in there. And immediately I had to get off my phone call because I didn't feel well. I went and laid down that night, and I was incredibly unwell. Probably one of the worst times. I ran a fever for probably 2 or 3 days. I was bedridden. And the entire time I was having flashbacks of very vivid downfall of ancient Egypt, devastation memories come back. So it was interlinked and intertwined. Now, the reason that I share this in such great detail was because last night when I was tuning into this energy of my heart, the heartbreak, the ability to not be able to breathe fully to my full lung capacity, and I could feel this snake being, kind of wrapping around me, and as I worked to release it, I didn't have, and that's where it's like, not having the reactive response of like, okay, who are you? What do you want? Where do you come from? We're gonna send you across now, out of the space. I literally saw that time that I just described of when I etherically got bit. It was like everything started to go in reverse cycle motion. It was like the unraveling and the unwinding of not just that time and what has happened since then, but where it goes back to its origins of the memories that I was recalling during that blurry fever. That set off a catalyst of so much interference and psychic attack energy in my life personally, and I know I speak for myself, but I also speak for many. It's like the times that we've lived in has been extra challenging with the layer of these type of energies or beings that we've had to contend with. But each time we rise to the occasion and we rise above it. And it's the practice of our own self-mastery. And it's coming into an empowered place of, yes, we go through these initiations. Yes, they're terrifying at the time, or they're scary, or they're painful. But it's like, how do we work with them? And how do we overcome them? And become the most impenetrable version of ourselves? Because that's what we're embracing and stepping into, ultimately. So after I had that experience, I fell asleep. And I woke up this morning and I've had some profound validation and confirmation almost show up in my reality immediately that shows me that these cycles of heartache and heartbreak and getting to our weak points, whether that be in our physical body or our emotional body, we're closing out that chapter and cycle. And it may not happen immediately, but it's in progress right now. So I know that people are getting squeezed. People are feeling the compression. People are feeling the expansion. It's all of it. And it's all happening simultaneously. But I really want to empower you and encourage you to embrace what is on offer and what is coming through to make the most of working with these energies. As I take a pause now and I'm just feeling into, it almost feels complete in what I've shared, and probably gone longer than what I had originally anticipated. But this feels like such a big closing and wrap up, and an honoring of what we've learnt and taken from, whether it's what I've been talking about, the close of the timeline, the COVID timeline in the last 5 years, whether it's been this 10-year awakening process, but how important the symbology of this snake is. And that's where the last bit of the correlation was, I've tracked these snake beings all the way back to Egypt for many years in different sessions and different scenarios. And I was actually a little surprised that it came into my awareness as of last night, because I haven't had any any interactions with any snake beings for a very long time. And I've noticed that as we are stepping in and embracing this new, slowly drip feeding reality that's coming in, there's a lot that's being exposed. You know, truth coming to light, people going through existential crisis in their personal life, you know, global stuff and all of what it entails. But it's energetically kicking up a lot of debris of a lot of our, what I like to call our favorites. The snake beings, the spider beings, the octopus beings, you know, all that good stuff. But it's really coming back into not being reactive, and that's the best place of empowerment that we can move forward. And that speaks for anything on our initiatory path, is to allow us to embrace our personal empowerment, neutralize our fears. And that's really what this deadline and threshold has been about, is, are we going to stay in the loop of the fear and the disempowerment, or are we going to stake our claim and come back into our heart, into our soul, our knowing, even if it's not clear, being courageous and stepping through into the vast unknown. So with this deadline and people who've made the jump and haven't, I want to clarify that just because someone's made the jump of this random date deadline that I was given doesn't mean that in, 5 months' time they won't make the jump. But there's a distinct splitting of realities that I've noticed since that. And how this may show up is people that were in your orbit or field, whether it's romantic or friendship or soul fam, whatever it might be, there's different choices and choice points that are going to put people out of temporary sync with one another. So you may all of a sudden have had a strong bond or energetic connection, perhaps, maybe physical connection, energetic, and it may have just all of a sudden just kind of dissipated. It's almost like it doesn't have the pull on you that it once did. So it's freeing up your space to be able to expand into the newness. And when we go through these shifts, sometimes if we intellectualize it, we can make more stories up than what is necessary. Because if we play to the mind, we can get into conflict, inner or with others. But ultimately, it's just a frequency, vibration, separation, as one has moved into this bandwidth of reality and the other isn't quite there yet. So there's like a divide that occurs. And so you may be in the process right now of having people just drop out or phase out. And this may be for good. This might be just temporary. I have personally been told that there's an incubation process for myself, and I'm sure that extends to many, to just stay in my own resonance and energy as much as possible, because I'm going through such an inner transformation that too much external input can be bombarding and overwhelming and, even detrimental to some degree of the process that is happening. Sorry, that's Parky. He's just coughing up a hairball in the background. You want to stake your claim, boy? You could say hello to everyone. Which brings me to the sensitivity of animals, our beloved fur babies. Keep in mind they're also going through these radical transformations, very sensitive to the sun energies, very sensitive to the solar winds, I noticed, on the weekend I had a day where I just wanted to eat and rest, and we've got to sometimes just give us that space, And I noticed that when I have those days, my beloved boy Parky, he's doing the same thing. So, children and animals are so sensitive, so much more than what we are. So give them the support and grace as that final reminder. So coming up on, I believe it's Sunday the 21st of December at 7 p.m. Melbourne, Australian Eastern Standard Time, I will be hosting, yes, that is correct. I will be hosting a sacred solstice soul gathering, guided energy meditation and process. So if you would like to join, all the details will be in the description box below, where you can read more and join and sign up. If you're in Melbourne on the 19th, the Sky Meetup Soul Connect 3i Atlas flyby will be held. Free tickets if you want to come and join the community. All the details will be in the description box below. And I just want to extend a massive thank you. We are going through some extraordinary times. I know that it is challenging and it can be hard, but it's also exhilarating too. And manifestation, I've noticed, is at an all-time high in what we focus on, is showing up, almost in real time. So keep a reminder to yourself to focus on what's most important for you and what you're working to in the bigger picture and what you're working towards moving forward. Thank you for listening. If you've journeyed with me this entire way, thank you. Sending much love and gratitude to everyone, and I will connect with you all soon.